kind and send me great responses to messages and send me lots of DMs to keep me happy. I'm on painkillers. I'm improving well. I was going to go to London tomorrow. I'm not. I think that'd be a little bit too far for me. So I'm going to stay here and just do some low-key work. So this is a big test to see how I can go. And look, consistency, right? I actually decided to have my operation on the Tuesday so I could still do my Q&A last week. That was episode 102. And so, yeah, I'm feeling quite good. I just need to take it easy, not go crazy. So thank you for all the love and thank you for the questions. We're looking at social selling today. The concept of social selling being rather than traditional selling in the sense of maybe calling people or hard closing or cold calling, things like that. It is instead focusing a bit more on just looking at being social, using social media and converting from there. So some really great questions have come in, and thank you everyone. I'm just waiting for everyone to jump in. A couple of notices, as always every week there's a few notices, but the really important one this week is those of you who are in the Slack group, the Entrepreneur Business Club. That's our premium group, which is for collaboration for entrepreneurs. That's now moved officially to Facebook. So if you need to get access to it, DM me, or you can go straight to my website, therichardmoore.com, and you can, under products, you just go to Entrepreneur Business Club and you can join through there. The Slack group will close at the end of this week, and anyone who wants to migrate over, and people already are, will do so. So the whole point of that is a level above the Entrepreneur Business Group, and that club is all about, you know, helping each other out, collaborating. You have full posting privileges, so you can post as much as you like, but it's about helping people in your space as you grow your business. Also, I just wanted to say, like, just for those of you who are jumping in right now, thank you everyone who has given me kind words in the last week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go the whole distance today. I should be all right. I feel quite good, actually. Very tired. I've lost a bit of weight. And I'm on lots of painkillers, but otherwise I'm recovering quite nicely. So again, thank you very much, everyone who said wonderful things. So let's jump into questions on social selling. Let's start with Kurt Mercadante. He said, when social selling, what is the fine line between being too salesy and not being intentional enough about selling? This is a big issue because classically in a professional space, if you're selling, is selling and that's it. But we don't want to be too douchey or salesy because it puts people off. We get that. At the same time, if we are being a little bit too too social, we'll end up being in the friend zone, not getting anywhere. So I think it's important to focus on the cues, Kurt. What I mean by that is the cues essentially are where people give you compliments and say things like, hey, you know a lot about your stuff. That's really helped. Thanks so much. Oh, I never looked at it that way. Things like that. And then you can leverage that as a reason to do an ask. Okay, to then nudge towards a gentle sell or get someone on a call or whatever it is you're going to do to close someone. But it does need to start with that cue from them. I think that tends to help really well in terms of making sure you earn the right to actually ask someone for something. And in social selling, you need to put value out first. You need to engage with people, make them feel good about the experience with you, and then they'll be more inclined to feel good about this kind of experience and the conversation. You're more likely to be able to convert then. So that's an important point. I think the way to look at it as well is that you should, rather than going out and out selling, you should maybe look a little bit more at leaving a path. So what I'm saying here is if I'm putting great social content out, aligned at least loosely with what it is I focus on, Kurt, it's wise to leave a breadcrumb trail from that post or piece of content through to my site, wherever people might, or wherever it is people might buy things. So what I'm saying here, a great example of this is, for instance, on LinkedIn, where if I post a piece of content related to sales, then people will check out my profile. And when they check out my profile, they can see there's a link to my website. And if they're keen enough, and there's a lot less people at this point, you know, from 10,000 views of a post, you might end up with, 300 people actually look at your profile, from which 25 might then go onto your website. And then there might be one guy who says, do you know what? Actually, this course is perfect for me. I'll buy it. And that's an important process. Make that simple and frictionless. And it means you can put out great content and enjoy that. And the social sell will be quite effortless if you get that bit right. So that's an important way to look at it. I hope that helps a bit. You'll have to excuse if you can hear it. Probably you won't actually, but there's loads of attack gunships flying over all the time. There's a base nearby, so I hope you can hear over the din from the helicopters. It feels like we're in a really important place. It's not. It's just nothing going on. It's just training, I think. Thanks everyone who's joining in on Facebook here. Great to see you. Also on YouTube as well, and here on Instagram. Let's look at the next question from Anna Sabino, who I'm really proud to say last week she said I've managed to migrate her over from LinkedIn to Facebook, so that's good news. I've done a good job there, such as the impact of these sessions. So she's written, Richard, a question for you. Could you share an event or social sale example and a method used that surprised you the most as far as the results? There was actually one in particular, and it's not that it was a surprise as such, because I knew it would work, and it's the whole philosophy I'm talking about here, but it did happen some time ago. And I remember it was the first time on LinkedIn when I'd left a comment relating to sales. I'd left like a tip, and someone bought one of my products as a result of seeing that that comment. And so what happened is I'd gone to someone else's post, seen a comment on the thread, seen a comment on that post, and replied to that thread. And in there, someone had seen that comment and thought, who's this guy? Checked out the profile, seen that there was a website that was relevant, saw that was a course that was related. This is the Basics of Sales course, and then went ahead and bought it. And it's fascinating because if that can work, all you need to do is get enough numbers looking at you, and it will work even more. And that's what's so fascinating about it. So it was a bit of a surprise. It was also very simple, and it was inadvertent, Anna. I think that's so wonderful about it. With social selling, you can reach far more people than you realize. There's a post I put out 24 hours ago. Normally it would get several thousand views of this video. It's now, just at last check, it's gone north of 11,000. It's just gone kind of micro viral, and it's hitting third connections now. So connections of my connections who have then connections nothing related to me. It's kind of been opened the gates to them. So it's fascinating because suddenly now there's huge amounts more connections and people asking to join up to me and, connect with me on LinkedIn. And I saw a little spike in traffic to the website as well. So it's fascinating that if you can just do the right thing, post it at the right time, align it with the right people, get people fired up and talking, it can really spread quite well. So it's a fascinating thing to do. Another question here from Anna actually is, where do people leave money on the table in social selling? This is a really important question. Okay, where do people leave money on the table in social selling? The thing about social selling is you're leveraging a relationship, and ideally a really good, friendly one, in order to generate some sales. It sounds really Machiavellian or really kind of mercenary of you, but it is essentially what's happening here. Now, if you do that, you run the risk of getting a little bit, run the risk of running a little bit wild with the friendship thing. And if you do that, you can get to a point where, people move, as I say, to the friend zone. And if you're in the friend zone, you can kind of get to a point where you decide you just want to discount the hell out of your product to kind of do them a favor and help them. Your integrity as a professional or as a purveyor of your product is so important. Okay. So if you're worth something, if your service is worth $1,000 an hour, then, doing a favor for someone it's kind of a natural human thing. You might do it for a friend or family member, but in social selling, you should still hold your price, because whilst you're good friends and you're helping that person out, and you may be giving an overwhelming amount of value in their direction, at the same time, it's important to make sure that you recognize your product is priced as such for a reason. So you hold the price. And I think people leave money on the table by offering outright a discount because they're getting on with someone. And if you're having a nice, comfortable conversation with someone, it doesn't necessarily mean you should be discounting. So professionally speaking, the price is the price still. Of course, there are exceptions and people react in different ways, and some people have more money than others. And it may be that you choose a strategic reason to discount someone or make someone an offer because they might be able to give you something in return, such as access to a great network they have or something like that. But it is important to understand that if you are giving just discounts for the sake of it because you get on with someone, it might not necessarily be a good practice, because if this is what you do, then actually you're never getting your normal rate because you just give away too much. All is to say, you know, just hold your price if you're worth it. It doesn't mean you don't discount. It just means don't kind of do it from the word go. That's just bad practice anyway. And I think when people leave money on the table, Anna, because they get in the friend zone so much that they want to do someone a favor, you are doing them a favor because you're giving them great results and great returns and great value. And the price is the price. And so I think, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a fair bit stubborn on that. But of course you can move should you need to. Shout out to everyone on Facebook. Thank you, Henna. Thank you, Daniel. Anna, nice to see you. Yes, earn the right to ask. Isaac, you're here. David Potts, good to see you as well. Saying hello. Daniel Nunes, you just asked a question. Where do people leave money on the table when it comes to social selling? I was going to ask something similar. Great question. Yes, it is a good question. Just think about that. If you're getting too much in the friend zone, the whole point is you're leveraging that friendship to get yourself a sale. Don't let the relationship leverage you to give a discount. That sounds really out of order, but actually it's not, because this is your job and this is what you're selling. Then the price is the price, as it should be with anything. And if such a set of circumstances arise where you do need to give a discount, well then fine. Okay. I hope that helps. Next question is from Judy Fox from over on LinkedIn. Curious about any tips to use social selling to help smooth out the buying process compared to traditional selling. Real simple tips are, I think, one thing that's really worked for me is I say this loads, I posted about this last week, keep your signal pure. People know me as a guy who focuses on startups because of the Startup Business Q&A. They understand, if you ask most people who follow me at all on LinkedIn, what is it Richard Moore does? Oh, he's the guy who focuses on sales. He has lots of sales tips. And it's a lot of business stuff and communication and marketing in general, but focuses on sales. And that's clear because the signal, whilst I'm having lots of fun and collaborating and interviews and things like that, at the same time, the general signal is a very pure one on that point, on sales. As a result, people then know what I do. And I think that's a very important tip. If you're a little bit kind of all over the place, people are like, what does this person do? And the only reason they're going to kind of reach out to you or get in touch with you if they're just curious what the hell your vibe's all about, which might be interesting in itself. And if you don't know what you're going to position yourself to do, then there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself and putting content out there, because actually what's going to happen is you'll find yourself a bit more and you'll understand, or you'll kind of learn which direction to take, which path, and how you might need to pivot. But I do feel that you need to get that nailed down fairly swiftly. Be reasonably clear about what your signal is. I think that, I suppose the way to look at it as well is appeal to the solutions that they're after. So if you think about this question, you know, how do we smooth out the buying process? People love to buy. People love to buy because they love to think that, oh, I need something and I've found the solution myself and this is going to solve all my problems. That's why emotionally someone wants to buy. So what you need to do is position what you do as the solution to a buyer. So you have to map back from what a ideal buyer of yours would be wanting. So for instance, if I want buyers of my LinkedIn Basics course, I need to be providing and offering content in the social space, both in comments in the community as well as posts and content as well, that is aligned with solving basic issues or problems around LinkedIn, right? So if I'm providing an overwhelming amount of tips and evidence about how I can solve that, that's a good start, but I need to show that I'm the solution as well. So that's things like social proof, so testimonials, recommendations, people talking about this. You know, the video I put out yesterday, there was a point where the guy I was interviewing, Mike Cavasan, said, you know, I really like what you do, Richard, and the reason why is this, and he's talking about my solution there. It's really worth putting in. So make sure you position yourself as the solution to what the buyers are after. That's a very, very important point. Traditional selling classically is a lot more going to people and saying, here's what I do. With social selling, you're getting people into orbit around you and keeping them warm to the point where they feel, do you know what, this person exactly what I'm after? Or I know someone who needs what this person produces, I'll tag them. And that's important, okay? So make it clear, so your pure signal exactly what your solution is, as long as you're doing it from the perspective, what ideal buyer would be. And that's classic sales anyway, that's where I look at it. So hope that makes sense. Thumbs up if that makes sense. I just want to make a notice as well. I want to a shout out to Anna Soricio. You may be watching on Instagram or on Facebook. I just want to say thank you very much for helping out. So Anna and I are producing the first of the Entrepreneur Business Live events in London. That will be on Wednesday week. So in about 9 days time on the 25th of July. We are sold out. So all the tickets have gone. And in fact, I think 3 or 4 more. So I've got a few more than capacity in tickets have already gone. So I'd like to think that's good marketing. I've only posted like 3 times about it. So it's really good. And thank you anyone who shared about that. If you're not in London and if you're not attending the event, no fear, because you can become a member of the free Entrepreneur Business group on Facebook. And if you do that, then at 6:30 local time, so London time, on the 25th, Wednesday next week, you will be able to watch live streaming only to that group the 4 speakers we have. I'm announcing her third and 4 speakers this week. But the first 2, Marielle and Delissa, are absolutely world class. So I'm very excited about them. So I'm excited. That's literally just sold out in just over a week. 40 odd places. It's now something like 43 seats. So I have to find some seats out of nowhere. So well done, everyone. And thanks so much. The following event, I won't be doing one in August because I am running a workshop. Well, I'm going to be a guest with the workshop with Kurt Mercadante. If you don't know him, check him out. He's one of my friends here on both Instagram and on Facebook. That's on the 7th of August. So a couple of weeks later. And I'm away then in the Scottish Highlands doing some influencer marketing. So I'm working with a Mercedes and a Peugeot 308 SUV on behalf of Europcar. I'm going to have a couple of weeks shooting footage up in the Scottish Highlands and doing a lot of driving and also work on the way with these 2 cool SUVs. So has anyone driven a Mercedes GLE? This SUV is quite cool. So that's one of the cars I'll be driving. And I take the family up as well. So it's good fun. But then I'm back in September, and on the 12th, Wednesday the 12th, so 2 weeks in, we will have the next live London event. Looking ahead, just because I'm on topic, those of you who are in New York, thumbs up if any of you who are West Coast or could be in New York. It was going to be December. It's going to be January 2019. That's genuinely not that far away. It's only 6 months away. We will have the first Entrepreneur Business Live event in East Coast. So that will be in New York City. And then the plan is 6 months later, at the very latest, I will run the West Coast events. That will be, it won't be in LA, it'll be in San Francisco. Why? Because I've got family there, plus it's also a great entrepreneurial place as well. So lots of fun things ahead. Let's come to the next question from Eileen Kelly. And Eileen, I want to say thank you very much. You joined on Facebook recently, and you went to the last Startup Business Q&A episode last week, and it was lovely to see you show up for the first time and throw over a question rather. You've asked, Richard, do you have any tips on how networking increases sales for a business, and how do I go about communicating in a professional manner, and how do I connect with the hearts and minds of people without being seen as pushy? I just want to tackle one point in this really quickly. You're talking about communicating in a professional manner. Think about your audience and the world you're in. For instance, if you're working in a traditional legal space, then you talk about firms, and there is maybe more of a conservative view even of how you should react and communicate. But there's other extremes as well. People maybe more of the world of marketing or healthcare or whatever, where it's maybe a little less dry classically. All of that doesn't matter, because you've got to recognize you're actually engaging with people. That's the point of social selling. And it doesn't matter if you feel that maybe lawyers, as an example, are a certain type of people, and I expect a certain kind of thing on, say, LinkedIn. If you look at Facebook, they're all there. They're just not in a lawyer capacity there. They're doing something else. So you can still reach these people, but I think look at it in terms of the person rather than the business, and it does work very well. Some people just get turned off with you being a little bit more social and expressive. But, you know, they might be difficult to close anyway. Focus on the fact that most people are quite like a lot of fun, and actually social selling can be something that brightens their day up, but with meaning and purpose to it, and kind of a sense of intention as well. I think it's a really important point you made about a good point in this question about tips on increasing sales for a business. I don't think it has to be any different to what I've suggested already, that you produce great value against a pure signal and then leave a frictionless, simple path straight back to you. So it should be from content. The next step is profile, from which it's very simple to get to your website, from which it's very simple to buy a product. It doesn't have to be clicking around, jumping through loads of hoops and filling out surveys and, you know, going through lots of pages on a site. It should be really simple to do. And I think if you can get that bit right, then it works just in the same way. And again, just like I said before with the question for Judy Fox, you know, appeal to the buyers you're trying to reach out to by offering the solutions that they would want, aligned with your product, of course. Okay. Focus a lot on positioning. This is what this pure signal thing is all about. It's about positioning yourself as a local expert, as it's known, or a kind of a minor celebrity in that particular space. What that means is that someone who's specifically well known for doing exactly what you do. And that's what you want to be trying to talk about. Even if you're focusing on a business space, Eileen, it's important to recognize that it's ideal, especially nowadays with the social world we've got, to position yourself as someone who is a kind of a figurehead or a personality in that area. The business brand itself, ideally, if you can leverage you'll put you in a much better or stronger place to do this, to generate conversions, I think, because people buy people and they want that connection. That will work a lot in your favor. Okay. Let's do a couple more questions. I'm holding up okay. Painkillers are doing all right. A little bit achy, but not too bad, actually. So this is episode 103 of Start a Business Q&A. Shout out to everyone listening on the podcast. And thanks, everyone, again, for all the wonderful messages in the last 6 days. Or 5 days, because I didn't read them on the first day because I was completely unconscious. But since my surgery, it's been really kind of you all to be so wonderful and send me things to keep me company while I've been just laying in bed trying to get better. So thank you very much for that. I'm genuinely recovering fast. If I have any advice for people who are certainly younger than me, I'm only 37, but still, is invest heavily in making yourself fit and healthy. I worked my face off in my 20s in my business, but I also worked very, very hard on my body as well. So I'm not saying I'm kind of this kind of Adonis, but I'm just saying is I worked hard on keeping fit and eating well. And I'm cashing in a lot of those chips in the last year. And I think it's life would have been a lot more difficult and recovery times a lot slower if I hadn't looked after myself. So do think on that. It's a little bit of I sound like someone's granddad, right? But it's important. Make sure you look after yourself because you never know when you need it. I had 2 huge operations. Well, not huge. This last one wasn't too huge, but the one before was massive. And recovery times are obviously going to be improved if you look after yourself. So do that as much as you can. Anyway, it's my little tip for you. Let's go on to Ian Tisker's question. What is a better approach, selling through messages or selling through posts? You know how I respond to these kind of questions, Ian. It depends is the answer. Are you good at DMing? Are you good at posts? Some people are no good at content. Some people are no good at video. Some people's videos suck. Some people's content, like their copy, it sucks. Some people are amazing at it. I know someone on LinkedIn who never posts an image and never posts a video, but she gets great traction with her content because she writes amazing copy. And you just think, if only you could just record a video and speak, we would get even more from you, but she doesn't want to. So no worries, but she does it so well because her copywriting is amazing. There is no better approach. There's just what works best for you. So in selling through messages, I'm great at that because it's a really slow, easy approach to do it. Selling through selling through posts can be difficult because you're not reacting to an audience. You're reacting to how you think an audience is going to be. And then you've got the comments afterwards to engage with them. So you don't know exactly how it's going to go. Whereas with DMs or messages, you're in a place where you're reacting to the person live in that moment. So a little bit easier in a way to gauge what to say, but it's also a little bit harder because you've got to have the finesse to know which direction to go, in that moment. So both work. Use both. Try both and then decide what works for you, because your ability to close on messages, Ian, might be far more superior than my ability to close on messages, and doesn't mean it's wrong. Classic example of this actually is people who use phones. I coach a business that focuses on phone-based selling, and they don't use email at all. They only use phones. And they also don't leave voicemails because they've been coached previously that culturally there's no point leaving voicemails because no one responds to them. So what they believe culturally is that voicemails don't work. No one ever replies to voicemails. But have you ever replied to a voicemail? Of course you have. So what it means really is the people who have come before them have not been able to crack voicemails. So it's now a pervasive cultural trait of that business that they don't bother leaving voicemails. But the reality is you should try because you might be really good at it. I remember a guy once who was fantastic. His phone was ringing off the hook from voicemails. And it's just like, okay, so you're quite good at leaving ones that make them compelled enough to call you back. So try and then work out is the answer. But I'm not trying to be flippant, but maybe it's worth looking at understanding what the kind of product is you're trying to sell. When you're really selling a person one-on-one, it's great to get them through the post to start with. And then as they're warming up from your content, then you can move them away from the crowd and have those messages. And that's a nice way to kind of focus in on them and then perhaps move on to a phone call or something like that. So that's my approach as well, I would suggest. Next question is from Jacob. Jacob Wizbiki. I hope I said your name right, especially because Jacob, I'm speaking to you in about an hour after this as well. But Jacob asks, when building relationships via networking, when is the right time to ask for an introduction to someone? Good question. So when you're engaging with someone and you want an introduction to someone else, it's difficult to ask, hey, could you introduce me to that person? We don't want to do it, and certainly don't want to get a no from someone. So it's far better to think about how you position it. So you want to steer the course of the conversation to move to a point where you're talking about something that's relevant to that other person. So for example, if I'm engaged with someone online and I want to engage with one of their contacts and I want them to introduce me, I need to go and look at that contact I want to be introduced to, check out what they do, and find things out that could start a conversation with my connection to create a relevant situation where, like, hey, you should know this person, or you should be introduced to this person. Make yourself relevant. Position a conversation or steer it in such a way where it's kind of a good idea for you to speak to this person. That's a good way of doing it. Bring them up, maybe talk about them. You don't necessarily have to ask outright for the introduction. I think there's, but more directly, because I think, Jacob, you like getting results just like that. I mean, that's the scenic route that tends to always work if you've got the patience for it. If you haven't, then it's maybe worth looking a little bit more at just how you ask it. And I think that, like with anything, if you want to ask for something, you need to give some value first. Make that person you're speaking to feel like you're a great guy and you've given them so much and the value's fantastic. They're more likely to then when they're saying, oh man, that's so valuable, what a good idea, whatever it is the compliment is, that's your cue then to say, hey, do you know what, actually, I would really like to speak to this person. I don't suppose you'd mind introducing us, would you? And they're much more likely to say yes as a result. So just kind of earn the right is what it comes down to. That's what I would suggest as a solution here. Jacob, you've asked a second question, actually. He said, all right, one more that I just thought about when I was driving down the road. How do you create a sense of urgency when there is none? I'm still new to this social selling town and it simply moves slow. I've tried what I know to try and move them to a decision without pushing them away. I know it's a dance, but any more tips and tricks could help a lot. It is a dance. And the two things you need with social selling are patience, loads of it, and pipeline. Okay, patience in the sense, like, if you can just hold your breath long enough, something will start dropping in and it will start building. And you need pipeline, as in you need to keep putting things out there so that people keep jumping into your funnel and checking you out. So like I said, that post from last night, 11,000 views of this video means that more people are kind of checking out Richard Moore right now. You have to keep putting things like that out because you might be riding high one day, but then the next day everyone's forgotten you. So you need to keep putting new things out there. Okay. I think that it's important to have those two things. So patience, but also recognize that putting new people in all the time will help, or at least giving people access to you. But what you can do if you want to create urgency is you can look at the people who are engaging with you and then send them messages, engage with them directly and thank them for doing it. And And when you have a direct message, you can then move them, you know, you can help them, give them value, and they give you compliments. There's that cue, gives you the right, therefore, to ask, hey, let's jump onto a phone call or something like that. And now we've got them in a place where if you give someone overwhelming enough value against the solution to a need they have, then there's this beautiful thing, which is the best type of urgency, called natural urgency. And natural urgency is when someone has such an appetite that they buy it themselves. Okay, it's not fake urgency, but artificial urgency is when you create urgency yourself. Whereas the perfect natural urgency is when, for instance, someone's hungry, so they walk into your shop and they buy some food. You didn't need to close them; they just had need in that moment right then. And so, if you create kind of metaphorically the same kind of situation when you're selling to someone, where it's just so overwhelmingly perfect for you, for the value that you're giving to solve their problem that they have right now, there's a natural urgency built in there that they're going to want to just go ahead and buy it, because why wouldn't they? You know, if everything's right, they're qualified, they have the you know, the money and so on as well. But you know, that has to be earned through giving great value. You can create that urgency through giving them a lot more concentrated stream of value by, like I say, saying, you know, let's just hop on a call, let me help you a bit. And then going from there, then really overwhelming that person, you move to a more heightened sense of being in the buying zone, and that gives you a better opportunity to then close them. So with that natural urgency in place, but patience and pipeline, man. And I think, you know, there's a lot of these different things. Ian here has asked a question about messages and selling through posts. Use all of these, and together you tend to find there's plenty. It starts dripping, and after a while, it's a constant stream. And then it's gushing amounts of business coming your way. You've just got to keep adding to fuel to the flames, I suppose. Let's finish with one more question. Starting to ache a little bit. I'm probably due some more painkillers anyway. So I'm going to finish on Daniel Nunes. How are you so successful in creating the entrepreneurial business group, which is leading into the Premier Group? And what were the most memorable challenges you faced, and how are you able to overcome them? This is a nice question. So the Entrepreneur Business Group on Facebook, if you look it up, you can find it. It's 3,500 people, started a couple of years ago, and that's all organic. That's people finding it, talking about it, and then joining. And you know, it's got the URL groups/Entrepreneur Business Group. So we've done quite well. It's very searchable, that group. I was successful through consistency. So every day, without any exception, there's always a post going up there. At least a couple of posts. I have wonderful people. Ian has helped, also Anna, who have produced content for it as well. But also what I'm doing is with the content, I'm focusing on giving value, but stimulating conversation. So it's not about just getting engagement. I'm not looking for likes. I'm looking for real kind of engagement. And in fact, a good example of that is today. After this, I will be going straight over to the Entrepreneur Business Group and announcing the winner of a $50 prize. So every so often I'm like, right, it's $50 to the person who can get the, you know, most whatever. So for example, the one today is across the weekend. Everyone had to post the biggest win they had for the last week, and everyone has to vote for the best ones. And the one with the most likes gets the $50 PayPal to them. So there's nothing crazy, but things like that combined with tips and help and give value means it stimulates discussion, and it's a wonderful place because it's a great community where people actually engage with each other. So basically you tend to get out what you put in. If you post motivational memes all day, every day, it gets so boring. Even for people who are into motivational memes, it's like, God, it's just like, this is the same old thing after a while. You've got to switch it up. So variety and interesting, engaging content that's going to want to get people to, it's going to get people to want to actually comment and share and do things about it. So that's an important thing to do. And that led into the Premium Group. That's right. So the Entrepreneur Business Club is what came out of that. Sure. That's basically a smaller group of people who are collaborating, helping and reciprocating, giving each other value. And, there are always going to be a hardcore of people who really see a lot of sense in doing that. So it's nice to have that extra kind of a higher level where everyone can post, but the whole point is it's like a forum where people can say, hey, I need help with this, or can someone help with that, or this is happening right now, or whatever it is, or even just sharing a win. And I think it's a good place to do that. If you have it in a group where there's thousands of people, you potentially can get a little bit lost if we have that approach. because then you're policing many more posts than you'd want. But what the most memorable challenge is, look, the memorable challenges that were at the start, and it's the same as with the Entrepreneur Business Club. It's so new. The Entrepreneur Business Club, we're literally moved over from Slack to Facebook. There are 12 members, that's it, including me. So in the Entrepreneur Business Club, it's really rich with people who are really keen on helping each other. But with 12 people, it's very quiet by comparison. And the challenge at the start was starting a group where no one's really doing much. So you have to go all in. I was posting so much every day, and you have to spend one of the big challenges with running a group, people don't get it, is you have to engage with people off the content, build that, work on community management, so speaking to people on their DMs and then getting them to jump over and check out the content, because they may be in the group, but they often don't bother looking at it. So that's an important thing to do. And I overcame this kind of thing by putting time against it. It's the one solution to most things that most people don't want to hear, is that the solution tends to be put some time against it and you will solve the problem, whatever the problem is. So with LinkedIn, what people don't want to hear is if you spend immense time, like 2 hours a day, DMing individuals and writing comments on someone else's thread, on someone else's comment, on someone else's post, doing that all day and jumping on calls and things like that, that's how you really do well. But that takes loads of time. And that's what I did in the group. And every day there's new people that I will, send a message to and say, hey, how's it going? And thanks for joining the group. And how are you? And have a conversation about how their weekend was. Because doing that one by one each day, you might get 3 or 4 a day done. That's not much, but across a month, that's 100. And across a year, it's 1,000 odd. And then you get, more and more people start to be involved that way. And I just think that's the way to do it. It's just a lot of time. But look at the content you're putting out for these kind of groups. Make sure there's shareability. Because it's compelling enough people want to talk as well and engage. Otherwise, you're just making statements, and no one's, maybe people are even looking at it, but they're not going to really make any kind of step to engage. And I think stimulating discussion is really valuable in our group. Collaboration is what the club's all about. But yeah, great question. Thanks so much, and a nice way to finish that up. I think I'll finish there. It's nice to be post-surgery, but I have only so much battery life at the moment. I need to go and have a cup of tea probably. But thank you very much everyone who has joined for Startup Business Q&A. This is episode 103. Any more questions on social selling, let me know and I will answer them subsequently after finishing this. But next week, hopefully I'll be right as rain and able to catch you on the next episode. If you're in the Entrepreneur Business Club, hop over there right now. I'll be there in about 2 minutes and we'll do the live stream to announce the winner of the incentive, the person who's going to get $50 by PayPal. But otherwise, catch you soon. Thanks very much, those on Instagram. Thanks also to everyone on YouTube. Good to see you. And thanks, everyone. Bridget, good to see you on the Facebook stream. Hello, Christopher.